I see depression as a kind of deep internal pressure. Let me try to explain it. I have a good news for all of us. There is a type of people whose risk of falling into a depressive state is close to zero. I will mention them in the end of this video. And to lead up to that, I need to share a short story from my youth. I used to be a very withdrawn teenager trying to get through my third semester at university. One of my exams was in mathematics and I found it quite challenging. I studied late into the night, I lived with my aunt, and she turned off the lights in the house at 10 p.m. I had to sit under the covers with a flashlight to study materials. I often cried because my aunt was cold to me and didn't support me. On the contrary, she could humiliate me and crush me emotionally. One night before the exam, I woke up to a crackling sound. I saw a bluish-white sphere in my room floating in the air and heading towards me. I managed to write the word sphere on a piece of paper. I thought it was ball lightning and that it would probably kill me. Well, I thought I deserve it. I am good for nothing, stupid girl. My place is on the sidelines of life. I was repeating my aunt's words. While I was thinking this, the sphere flew up to me and gently touched my chest. I fell back onto my pillow and fell into a deep sleep. In the morning, I felt more confident and happier than the day before. The exam was difficult, but I gave it my all. I got an A and was so happy with the result. All the way home, I thought that I wasn't so stupid after all, since I was able to pass the exam. I even decided to double-check my grade for the subject. But instead of the exam paper, I took out a piece of paper with the word sphere written on it. This made me think, so it wasn't a dream. I got on the bus to take a walk in the park. It was a May Day and the tulips in the flower beds had not yet faded. But I didn't notice the beauty around me. My thoughts were focused on the sphere I had seen that night, so it wasn't ball lightning. Maybe some kind of intelligent being from another world, like plasmoid. I ran out of the options. So I decided to visit my friends who read a lot of different literature, and maybe they could suggest me some possibilities as to what it could be. But instead of thinking about what it could be, my friends started joking about me and saying that I had imagined it. The same situation happened with my family who lived in another city and whom I visited during the holidays. After that, I didn't tell anyone about it and eventually forgot about it altogether. I stepped into a 12-year cycle of trials in my life. After university, I got an internship at a bank in the IT department. I was assigned a mentor, the young man I fell deeply in love with, and he felt the same way. We started dating. Later, I discovered that he had been cheating on me with another girl, and on Christmas Eve, he left me for her. After that, I became cold, my heart was broken, and I focused more on my career and making money. I wanted to be successful so that I wouldn't have to depend on anyone. I felt like I was a multi-armored machine, a wound-down biorobot ready to work around the clock. My life revolved around deadlines, KPIs, success, and achievements. But circumstances did not turn out for the best. My boss often yelled at me and always dissatisfied with me. My colleagues gossip about me behind my back. I cried a lot. The whole world gradually began to fall apart. Everything what I tried to believe is ruined, and then I fell into depression. At that time, I was seeing a psychologist who helped me deal with my problems. Eventually, however, I stopped seeing her because of the medication she prescribed. I have never liked taking medicines, not even vitamins. I remember that as a child, this caused my mother a lot of trouble. Interestingly, this psychologist reminds me a little of the psychologist in the fourth Matrix movie, one who prescribed neo-blue pills that suppress his awareness. After I stopped seeing my psychologist, I met a shaman from eastern Siberia. I wanted to hear a different perspective on life from someone who lived outside the technocratic world. She offered me new insights and a completely different way of understanding what was happening in my life. When I asked her about the strange night in May, she calmly replied that it had been the real me. I was puzzled. How could I possibly be a glowing sphere? Sometimes life itself begins to reveal answers to the questions we carry inside us. One day, my cousins decided to travel to several sacred places in Central Asia and invited me to join them. We visited many Sufi mausoleums and shrines. I noticed that almost all of them were decorated in white and blue, the domes shining brightly in the sun. Suddenly, I remembered that rainy night in May and the shaman's strange answer that what I had seen was actually me. Later, I listened to a lecture by a master of spiritual practices who spoke about Sufism. I learned that Sufis often decorate mausoleums in white and blue because these colors symbolize the soul. In fact, the entire philosophy of Sufism is focused on revealing and purifying the soul. And then it suddenly occurred to me. Perhaps that night I had actually seen my own soul. That might have been why the shaman told me it was you. After that, I became curious. I wanted to know what different traditions said about the soul, Christianity, Buddhism, and others. I started searching and reading everything I could find. I had an intense hunger for knowledge. It felt as if I had been deprived of something important, and now I needed to catch up on everything I had missed. 2 years passed like this, and to be honest, I became very tired of spiritual literature. I decided to step back and take a break from that for a while. About a year later, I met a man who had spent many years living in ashram in India. I noticed him immediately because he seems to glow with a soft white blue light. I wanted to talk to him and listen to what he had to say, but strangely, I couldn't bring myself to do it. At first, I thought he would recommend me spiritual books, and I was still recovering from information overload. But to my surprise, he spoke very simply and told me to watch the movie Iron Man. I was confused, but I watched it anyway. And suddenly I realized something interesting. The entire story is actually about the human soul. The arc reactor that keeps Tony Stark alive is like the soul itself, the true source of energy and life. Without it, the powerful exoskeleton is just a pile of metal. What's even more interesting is that Tony Stark himself becomes more human because of that reactor. It pushed him to change his life and use his talents for something more meaningful. Even Paper, his assistant, begins to love him more. Now let's come back to understanding why depression can feel like such immense pressure. In my view, depression is a burden on the soul. It's like the soul crying under a pile of stones placed on top of it. The body may continue to function but without energy source. Sometimes this appears as emotional pain and sometimes as physical illness. Depression itself is also an illness, but personally I believe that healing begins when we start removing those stones from the soul. I'm still in that process myself, slowly, step by step, with the help of my teacher and people around me. I'm learning how to free my own soul. As I promised earlier, I'd like to end this video by talking about the type of people who rarely experience depression. These are people who listen to soul, or as we usually say, follow their heart. They so stay free and they live in harmony with themselves and the world around them. Thank you for watching and feel free to leave your reaction.